and hear more. Because although, like we said, we've seen each other at networking, it's, they're often short conversations or you're doing something else.
It's hard to explain your entire background, history, and career, isn't it, in a 5-minute networking chat?
Oh my God. Someone asked me the other day, they went, so tell me about you. And I was like that.
You
I was
were,
born in 1981. I don't know,
yeah.
where do you want me to start? Like,
Yes, my mum and dad met in. Yeah.
But anyway, as I was saying, I am looking forward to it. We are probably now live on the internet, hopefully. So let me welcome everyone and say welcome to this episode of Young for Your Age. This is a live series that I've been running since about March time, and it's still going, and there's a few more planned for the end of the year. But today we're talking about something that doesn't get discussed enough. How pain and fatigue don't just affect the body, they affect your social life, believe it or not. Today we're talking about, I've started to repeat myself. One of the things that I see in the work that I do, especially with people managing joint pain, fatigue, or long recovery from things, is that it gets harder to say yes to things. Not because you don't care, not because you're not bothered, but because you're worried about slowing other people down, the impact that has, and not being able to keep up, or just feeling a bit invisible. Like one of my clients, he says to me, Rachel, people just ask me, they're like, hi, how are you? How's your back? And it's the first thing. And it's like he's become the back person. And when this happens, your world can, not for everybody, but can start to shrink. And you may stop doing the things that would light you up before, make you feel good. And before you know it, you're starting to feel a little isolated. And that is why I'm really excited for today's conversation, because connection, being around others, even imperfectly, is one of the most powerful things to bring us back to ourselves. I'm joined today by the wonderful Belle Lawrence, a community builder, choir singer, and creative for over 20 years experience in marketing, events, and people focused work. She's helped run launch events for businesses as well as arts festivals, and what is a big deal around here is the Choir Blast. And she knows what it takes to create spaces where people feel seen and supported.
Hello.
Welcome, Belle. Okay, so if it's okay, I'm going to dive straight in with the first question. But if you've got anything else you want to say or add, or if it deviates somewhere else, please just go with it. It's not a problem.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so Belle, you've worked in people-focused roles, as I was saying, across marketing, events, and choirs. What would you say you've noticed about how pain or physical challenges can affect the way people connect with others?
I think it is very much what you were saying in the introduction, where people can feel a bit isolated, or sometimes it's difficult to talk about the pain that you're in, or the thing that you're going through, or the experience that you're having, because it's very personal. And so you often feel a little bit insecure in yourself and feel that maybe you don't want to become, as you mentioned, the person who's got the painful whatever, or the person who's got this issue going on, because that's not your whole personality. It's a thing that you're handling, a thing that you're dealing with, but it doesn't define you. And I think the majority of people don't want it to define them. They still have all of the things that they enjoy and they want to do and they want to achieve that define them. So it can be a bit tricky, but in other ways, you also want to share with some people so that you feel supported and they can look out for you and look after you. So it's a tricky balance. But I think generally building spaces where people feel comfortable and safe and able to share with, even if it's just one person in that group, what they're going through or what they're experiencing, will help them feel more secure in that space and more able to just be themselves and enjoy it. And you hear it a lot with, teams in the work scenario, where they don't necessarily, a person who's experiencing that doesn't necessarily want to tell the entire team or the entire business what's going on, but they need to feel comfortable sharing it with their direct report or a specific person at somewhere in the company so that somebody's aware and can help them and can support them. And it's exactly the same in any other space that you go into, a voluntary group, a networking group, a choir, a fitness group, anything like that. You need at least one or two people who you feel supported by.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I wouldn't, I don't mean to sound surprised, but putting it like that, it's a work thing, it's a family thing, it's a life thing.
Mm,
Yeah, for me, being involved in sports teams, especially
mm,
when I was rowing for the best part of 20 years, that was a really secure place for me. And I wouldn't necessarily tell everybody all of the
mm,
details, but there would be a couple of people. Yeah, there is a lot of value, I think. Even when you're well, you possibly don't realize actually how good those groups are for you.
mm.
And then it becomes even more important that they're there when maybe things aren't going quite so well.
Yeah,
Lovely.
exactly.
Um, you're known for leading with kindness and making space for others, which I'm feeling right now. How does that help people who've lost confidence to reconnect?
I think kindness is really underrated. It's one of those things that when you watch shows on TV or you hear people even giving eulogies or talking about others, very often we describe others, oh, they're just, I want to meet someone who's kind. I want to work with people who are kind. And it's sometimes mistaken for weakness or for just letting people get away with anything, some kind of softness, but actually it's more about empathy and listening and trying to understand that person. That's how I would describe kindness and also giving them space. It's a really sort of human trait that is the most one of the most important things that we can all have. And when I kind of am lucky enough to have worked in some amazing teams with amazing people who were all receptive to the way that I like to run things. I don't like to dictate exactly what should be happening. Obviously, there needs to be some structure. I like structure, but there's also space for people to achieve what they want to do or figure out who they are in that scenario and not necessarily be put into a box. And that's where I see the kind of kindness bit come in. And it's been really validating to have some of that feedback come back to me personally as well from people that I've worked with who have said, there's definitely a feeling of relief when they're not pushed into something that they don't feel comfortable with, or when they feel that they can speak about the things that they're going through or experiencing or having difficulty with without judgment. So there's a lot wrapped into that word like kindness, but people don't arrive into group scenarios feeling entirely confident. I mean, if they do, I've never met anyone who just walks into a brand new room of people and is like, I am fine with everything. It's just we don't. We arrive always slightly insecure, and then it's up to the people in that group to figure out how to make space for them and create a place for them, whether they want to be fully active, fully involved, or just participate or just experience what's happening on in that group. So and sometimes it's as easy as just saying to people, we're glad you're here, not thanks for coming along because that's a kind of transactional thing, but
Yeah,
glad you're here. Hopefully you're in the right place. Hope you feel comfortable. Those kind of things that is an open and honest way of welcoming people.
yeah. No, I think that's yeah, because often I was thinking about what you were saying, um, and my mind went off on this tangent that sometimes when you're sharing or when I first turned up to networking and you're new, um, often in human nature we try and tell that person something. It's like, oh, I feel a bit nervous about being here. Oh well, don't feel nervous.
Yeah,
Which is
that's a
meant so
classic.
well. It
You
is really meant
shouldn't.
well.
Well,
But it's also like, oh, I just feel a bit nervous. And like you say, that's completely normal to just feel a bit nervous. And actually what you really want to hear is, oh yeah, like welcome.
Yeah, or I did too when I first came, or like, well, let's chat about something else and distract you, or whatever it happens to be. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily need to be about leading. I mean, sometimes it's only individual experience, right? I like going to networking because I'm like a Labrador person. I get energy off people and I like to meet people, and it doesn't necessarily phase me, but there's still a level of, oh, I don't always know what to expect. So even if you are confident in a certain scenario, no one 100% knows what they're walking into. And so best to be find ways if you're in some kind of leadership position or in a position where you can help to bring a group together, to think about how you can do that best in the most kind way.
yeah. And if you're the individual who going to something and you're feeling nervous, or you know you've got your own apprehensions, I guess what would we say to that person? Because I would be saying, well, you just need to show up anyway.
Mm.
It doesn't matter. But I guess how could we help ourselves feel a little bit more prepared? I suppose.
Yeah, building confidence is tricky in that scenario. So there are lots of things that you can do to feel more confident. One of the things I would say is visualization, maybe having been to the venue before. If there are elements about it that you might be apprehensive about. And if you let the apprehension get on top of you, then the simple thing is, I can't find somewhere to park. It can throw you off entirely. I know people who have had every intention of going to events, or even if it's to sing with a choir, and that for some reason their map will not take them to where they need to be, and it just gets overwhelming and they just go home. And it happens because it just gets too much. So if you feel like you might have apprehension about certain elements, then take some of the guesswork out of it. Go to the venue, have a quick look, drive past, whatever that happens to be, or ask the organizer, where should I park? Try and get some information, reach out for help. But equally as well, visualizing how you might start a conversation. Just thinking about it in your mind is really powerful. Like our brains are incredible, right? Visualizing how you want to feel, what you want to say, and how you want to interact with people is powerful in a community setting, in a group setting. And also, I'm sure you will have come across it with fitness and energy and feeling better as well, is sometimes just to visualize, if you've got a certain problem, visualize that problem not being there or melting away, and how powerful that can be in motivating people.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, and sometimes people really fixate on the worst outcome
Hmm.
without looking at the opposite. What's the best outcome that
Yeah.
could happen?
Yeah.
Having both, like this could happen, but also this. Yeah, it's a good one. Okay, let me move us on. I feel like we could talk about confidence all day long.
Yeah.
Um, for someone struggling with pain or isolation, what's a simple step they could take to reconnect with their community?
Mm. Um, Something small is usually the best place to start. Um, and listening to yourself, thinking about, how do I feel in myself today? Is it better, worse than yesterday? Do I think tomorrow might be better? Do I need a little bit of rest or a day of rest before I go and do this thing I'm planning? Do I need to plan in a day of rest after it, for example? Um, or do I need a buddy to go and do this thing with? Go to teaser sessions, or just ask if you can come and watch whatever the session is, join something virtually, watch videos of the sessions or something like that to get familiar. Again, that kind of take the guesswork out of it will help with not feeling, like you can't do it. The important thing, you said it earlier, is kind of showing up. It's taking a deep breath and just giving it a go, because as you said, hopefully you can see that the best things happen rather than the worst thing happen. And you don't have to be, nobody is 100% all of the time in their fitness, in their wellness, in their level of pain, no, in their confidence. Nobody is 100%. So if you can listen to what sort of percentage you are or how you feel that day, and you can go feeling the best you can, you don't have to be perfect to turn up to something new. you know. And with some of the events that I do and some of the things that I do, choir in particular can be intimidating. A lot of people worry about whether they can sing, how well they can sing, will they hit the note, can they learn the song, learn the words, etc. But the majority of community choirs, certainly, but choirs in general, will always start off at an easy level, at a straightforward level, with a warm up, with a little introduction, with a little bit of movement. That also takes away all the nerves, and anything that you can do to sort of move your body a little bit gets rid of all of the little anxious bubbles firing away. And also, particularly with singing in choirs, we do a lot of breathing, which is really great for reducing the stress. You're sort of blowing out all of that cortisol, getting rid of it, and calming your heartbeat down. So, I mean, if you're thinking that maybe you're struggling with certain things, I would certainly recommend choir and singing. But any group activity is good for that. I mean, group activities in general help us feel bonded, help us feel more human, and that we can relate to others around us and that we're not alone. But when I take it further into what we do with Choir Blast as a charity in the festival, singing is also incredibly powerful. Group singing in particular will help with memory, it will help with your concentration. It's been seen as particularly beneficial for healthy aging. So, obviously, theme wise of this podcast, really good for you cognitively, but equally, when you're in the group singing, choirs have been found that their heartbeats synchronize because you're breathing in very similar timings and you're breathing in a very regular way because you need to breathe at certain points in order to hit the notes. And so your heart rate will rise and fall together as a group. And overall, your heart rate will decrease because you will feel less stressed because you're exhaling and because you're expressing yourself. And so, as a group, you have this sort of slightly magical sense of being like one thing, one, group. Well, I can't think of the word, but, one big ball of breathing and calmness and joy. It releases all of the good hormones, all of our love hormones as well. So it's one of the best things that you can possibly do. So after the ramble, to go back to it, start small, and think about the thing that will bring you the most joy. That maybe revisit something that you used to do in your youth. That might be sport, that might be arts, that might be something else. But start at that level.
Yeah. No, that is really important. And there's something that you said. You said that singing helps to lower people's heart rate, and it helps them to feel less stress. Just the moving a little bit and the singing does help to lower that general low level anxiety feeling, which anxiety is a bit of a modern word. So older people might use words like maybe stressed or maybe worried.
Yeah.
We didn't have many words to describe it, to be honest. All of our words are now modern ones, like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
There was this general sense when you're older of just getting on with it. That's a language that lots of people use. When I say older, I mean anything over like 40 or 50. We were all.
I mean, funnily enough, I can only think of Irish expressions for some reason, but you would hear things like she suffers with her nerves, or expressions like that, which are slightly more broad, vague terms for something that's not defined.
Yes, exactly. And actually, with those things and the joint pain, there is an association. I'm always really careful to say I'm not trying to play down pain. I'm not saying that pain isn't real. It is. But when the pain starts to dominate, which it will do at times, and that's fine. Sometimes that's what painkillers are for. But actually, it has been shown that when people connect and when they living in a bit more joy. Sorry, it's a cringeworthy way of saying it. It does start to put the pain back in its box slightly, and life starts to pop up out of it.
Yeah.
So actually what you were saying was really relevant, and I just wanted to put a little bit of science in.
Yeah, exactly.
That is, yeah, it has
there
real
are
life impact.
multiple studies that have shown, that it can lead to better nutritional status and better well-being in general, and your emotional impact does affect your physical wellness.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let me ask this. So choirs, well, we were getting into it. We were both about to say everyone should join a choir.
Yeah.
The choirs are clearly about more than singing. What do they reveal, and about how communities form and how they heal?
It's a really interesting one. So, like we've already talked about a little bit, singing is quite a vulnerable thing. Like, it's quite personal because your voice is very personal to you. Anyone who ever loses their voice, either through illness or, just having a cold, or, more serious illnesses, will tell you it's one of the most difficult things because it's such a personal thing. And we are all quite sensitive about hearing our own voices reflected back at us as well. Most people don't like hearing their own recorded voice, even if it's just on their voicemail. Because it's very interesting how it's expressed into the air, and then we hear it again through our ears, and how your brain interprets it. So it's really personal. But singing as a group helps with that. It's a bit more safe because you sort of blend into, again, kind of one voice, or with harmonies, multiple sounds. But I mean, a harmony is, and I don't have the science to explain this, but the way that harmonies affect our brains is magic. Again, we don't know exactly why. We can say, okay, sing this note, and then 3 notes up from it, it'll set off more lighting up in your brain than it will just
The
singing.
neuro, yeah.
All the neurotransmitters go a bit wild. And so, yeah, if you blend together as a group, it feels a little bit more safe. I've sung all my life. I'm not trained. I haven't done grades and things like that. Members of my family has. My sister's very well qualified. My dad, all that kind of thing. But I always felt more comfortable just sort of being a natural singer, if you like, and approaching it from that way. And what I noticed, that the people that I have met, the friends that I've made through choirs and through other music in bands or duos or whatever that happens to be, is the shared experience helps everyone to sort of stand taller, feel a bit more like they can go into the rest of their week or the rest of their world with a little level of something different that they've enjoyed as a group. And there's also this sort of shared aim. Again, similar to sport, where you're often heading towards a performance, or you're simply just learning for learning's sake, a song, a melody, a harmony, some sounds, or even signs, Makaton, sign language to go along with it, or some movement, where after several weeks of practicing this thing as a group, you achieve it. And so achieving goals and achieving things is, again, very powerful. So it's doing that as a group makes a world of difference. Singing alone, generally, great. Doing it as a group,
Yes.
mind blowing.
Yes, I do have a tiny story. I was in a choir. It was through my work anyway. We did have to perform, and I ended up in the front row. And the choir splits in half, so I ended up on the corner, and we all had to turn at a certain point in the song, and I was like that, wide-eyed with fear, wanting to say all the swear words under the sun, and just having to stand at the front and just remember all the words, and like, oh my God. And then but the emotional bit came, like, then because choirs walk off in lines.
Yeah.
And I was at the front, so I was the last one to go, and I was literally like refrain. We just want to shove people
Yeah.
off. We would just hurry up, get me
Yeah.
off. Because as soon as I got to the back, I couldn't stop. I just started crying.
Oh, amazing. It's
Because
so good. It's
it's
such
that
a good release.
personal performance thing of you've put yourself out there, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, I've put myself out there, warts and all, and it's been okay. I've not died.
Yes, yes, I've managed it and I'm all right at the end of it. In fact, better than all right because you're probably, people describe my heart's bursting, and that's such a gorgeous description of it because you can't really figure out what's going on here, but you can feel the emotion literally in your body.
Yeah, yeah, it was mad. It was a mad experience, but good. So, do you think creativity, whether through music, theatre, or events, has a special role in rebuilding confidence?
Definitely. I mean, creativity can be so many things. It's quite a leveler because I think in your introduction of me, you described me as a creative, and that's such a nice like broad term because I feel I am creative in certain ways, but I probably didn't used to think that. I used to imagine that my strengths lie in organization and structure and making sure everything's ticked and in a box and nice and neat. But there are also creative ways to approach organization and structure, and there are creative ways to build teams, there are creative ways to think about a problem. And all of that is just as important as what you might imagine creativity is through art or music or whatever. You can be as creative in a science and in a sports team as you can in a singing or theatre or dance. And
Yeah,
so it's kind of, again, it's that building something together, but you could all be at entirely different levels doing entirely different types of creativity. But it's again good for the brain to create and to generate something new and something that comes from us. That's really
yeah,
potent as well.
yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you're saying all these things, Belle, because that is exactly what I would say. Actually, exactly what I believe happens, my lived experience. And it I like to think I'm creative, but I sometimes get put in a box of, well, you're the sporty one or you're in
Hmm.
fitness, da da. And partly I object to that because I didn't grow up like that. I was a good girl and I read books and I stay quiet, relatively. Um, I ticked all the boxes that a little girl should do, is what I'm
Right.
trying to say. And then I was like, no, I actually like physical activity. I like being outside. I'm going to do, and my life has changed. And what I'm trying to say is people make assumption about sport being really rigid. But when it
Mm.
comes to working with clients, if this is why I will never show them how to use a rowing machine.
Mhm.
The reason is I used to row. I've had it drilled into me how to row properly. I know what that technique looks like. And if the person in front of me wanted to go and be a rower, I would drill them until they got it right so they could be the best rower that they could be. But I'm not going to do that to someone who just wants to know how to use a row machine
Yeah.
and do a bit of exercise 2 or 3 times a week. Christ,
Yeah.
no way. And so when I work with people, it's okay, what do you, it's not totally led by them because obviously they need some guidance from me, but I collaborate with them. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, how have you moved before? What does your pain allow you to do? What do you hate doing? We might have to do it anyway, but how can we and so yeah, you're right that creativity shows up in
Yeah, you have to
yeah,
find a creative solution because if it is, that it has to be partly led by the individual because everyone is individual, and that can make, working in teams and working in groups quite tricky. But there are also often lots of common factors that you can, parcel nice and neatly together. But there are always going to be individual needs and individual things that you have to come up with a creative way that can make everyone feel like they're being heard and they are understood and they are important as an individual. Because if we don't feel like that as humans, if we're just shoved into a box and into a group, we all go, that's not me. So you can't be talking to me, and therefore I am either going to remove myself from the situation or going to feel bad about it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Ugh. So I could say more, but let's ask another question. You often talk about saying why not and moving from that's mad to we did it.
Yeah.
And how does that mindset help people facing fear or hesitation?
This is a really interesting one. I like to say why not, but I didn't obviously invent saying why not, right? But I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we had a similar conversation about how you might approach life, or how a person might approach life. And there is a difference between a group of people who maybe feel a bit risk averse or feel a bit too nervous to do something, and that generally question will be, oh, why would I do that, or why should I do that, or why would I put myself in that situation? Whereas I'm certain that it comes from my background, my parents, and their sort of why not attitude. Well, why wouldn't you? Why couldn't you? What would stop you from doing this? Let's figure out how to. There's a kind of anything is possible scenario where it isn't to do with not understanding the risks or not thinking about what could go wrong, but being open-minded to the possibility of it going right or it being the best outcome. And so the way I work with people in my work life, in my freelance life, and as well as building arts festivals, choir festivals and stuff, is to say, just take the pressure off. Just take the pressure off. If we had the best outcome in the world, what does it look like? Why couldn't we get there? And you know what? If you start from there, you can then figure out how to plug in the things that can get you there, or compromise in ways that you don't feel like your idea or your goal that you're working towards is going to be, not exciting enough or not what you really wanted it to be. So you can still find ways to compromise. So why not's really, it's a really big important thing. Opens the door to like trying, I guess, giving it a shot. And I like being the kind of person who can say, well, how can I help you get there? What could we do? Because that's much more interesting and exciting than simply giving them a box to get into.
Yeah. Yes. That is important. Like, oh, to give a bad example, someone might say, well, I used to run a marathon. I want to run a marathon again. And that still might seem like a million light years away. And in some situations, that may not happen. But what can we do that looks like that looks like the training you used to do for a marathon, or allows you to put running trainers on for 10 minutes a day? Just
Or try and figure out what it is about the marathon itself. Is it the achievement of distance? Is it that you stuck to it? Was it the group that you're running with? Is it the charity? Like, there's so many factors in the why that you can tap into to figure out what other steps you can take or what other avenues you can go down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So sometimes when I hear influencers being like, know your why, it sounds really cheesy, but there is actually
Yeah. But why do you want to bet? Why do you care about that? I mean, I must ask why 100 times a day when I'm working with clients, because, but why? But why? But where is the motivation? And eventually you get a little bit under the skin and you can figure out how to tweak it. Because for a lot of people, creating events or doing their own marketing, or, working on something that is a goal that they need to achieve for their own well-being, can feel a bit insurmountable and difficult to achieve if they haven't really figured out why they're trying to do it. And things like fitness is a particularly good one, because is it weight loss, or is it actually just enjoying being outside in the fresh air, or is it that you want to learn a new skill? Like, there's more than just,
yeah,
I guess, what the media might tell you or what's expected.
yeah, yes, yes. And I won't go off on a tangent about it today, but I will just give it a little nod. Often people will say, and I think they think this is what a personal trainer wants to hear. But yeah, I need to lose a bit of weight. Sure.
Great.
And
What
some
else?
So yes, exactly. Because some trainers will go, great, okay, you need to restrict calories, you need to da, 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 and they'll give you a plan. But really, okay, why? What makes you want? And that's when you get to know people,
Mhm,
and that's when they really appreciate the difference, because it's not just the tick box
mhm,
answer.
mhm,
It's like, okay, what? How do you feel about that? What does that mean to you? Why would that? Yeah. And when you start to unpick that for yourself,
mhm.
yeah. Okay. All right. Let me move us on, because oh shoot, I'm just aware of the time. You've spent 20 years or 20 plus years in marketing and events. Um, industry's built on collaboration, by the way, as you know. How has that shaped your view on the importance of community in everyday life?
It's a funny word, community, because people view it in a very different way. You know, perhaps an old-fashioned way of viewing the word community is literally the people that you live near to, the services that you have, and how you interact with them. But certainly with the rise of digital and things like social media, but before we had social media, there were communities online, and there are also communities in the way that we can look at them where there are shared interests, shared backgrounds, shared goals. And they each create a small community. So it isn't just about a kind of the local thing, and it isn't just about everyone following one particular social media page. That's not a community. Online, a community is often fostered again by shared problems and peer review, peer support becomes a community in its own right and becomes its kind of own living, breathing thing. But ultimately, again, I think we said it in the introduction, all of this is very much about connection and people. And marketing and events is very much about people. Um, One of the reasons I've enjoyed being in marketing for so long is because I'm really people curious. I'm interested in their motivations. I'm trying to figure out, well, where does that belief come from, or why do you hold that value so high? Like, what is it that would motivate you to do this thing, to buy this product, to go to this event? Because if
Mm,
you can figure that out, you can offer them something that is meaningful to them. It's not, for me, about sales or money or bottom lines. It's about matching the thing to the person. So earlier in my career, I was involved in recruitment marketing, employer branding, also marketing for schools, education, that kind of thing. And a lot of that really fed into my sort of justice system, if you like, that someone somewhere eventually I was helping them to find the job that they would love or to get into the college or the university or what have you that would springboard them onto the rest of their life. So in my sort of head, it felt like connection. And that's really what it's continued to be for me, really, my whole career. Even it's the most recent full-time job I had was entirely focused on social media, very much about connection. But what it's vital is you can't simply have a great advert and expect that to create a community. Or if you're talking about brand marketing, you can't expect people to care about the brand. You have to go beyond that and figure out how to build the connection, the relevance, and meet them where they are. So it's why I'm not in brand marketing now. I'm more in events marketing and community growth and you know, festivals and that kind of thing, because it's that motivates me to help people match to the thing that they really need.
yeah. And that's important, to find the thing that you need.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, that's what I would say to lots of people about exercise, is find the thing that moves you, metaphorically as
Yeah.
well as as well as physically.
Yeah.
Okay. We're getting there. So thank you. You've taken on projects ranging from wellness spas to soft play cafes, and you're a trustee for two charities. How do you have the time? What ties what ties all these roles together for you?
Oh, it's interesting. I'm in a space now where I'm lucky enough to be able to work with a whole variety of different types of businesses. But ultimately, they all have something to do with people and wellness and joy. And that's really lovely. I think because when I went freelance, I kind of set my stall out as what do I really want to work with? What brings me joy, and what in my experiences will allow me to take from my sort of previously full-time jobs into being freelance. And I knew that it was going to be something connected to the arts and singing. That's, my joy, my passion, my outside of work things. But I'm also really into food and drink. I work with some food clients and including things like the Soft Play Cafe in that, because I really love figuring out how we can create taste. Again, it's dopamine stuff for your brain, where you can create something brand new from absolutely nothing. Every type of dish that you go and try, even if it's called the same thing, might taste different because it's been cooked by somebody else with something else. So that kind of thing really interests me and really fascinates me as well. So tying them all together, I guess, is experiences. And I keep using the word joy, but it's that happiness comes from experience and not from a thing or a place necessarily, but experiences with people usually that tap into those dopamine parts of your brain. So for me, it's I don't dance a lot, but I love watching dancing. I will always watch that. I don't go and I'm not a stand-up comic, but I love going and watching that, and that kind of thing brings me joy. So trying to choose the things that I recognize in myself as my own joy to work with is what my aim is at the moment. So
Good for you. That is an excellent aim, Belle. Keep doing it. Because the word you used was experiences. And that is so when we go into the world, again, my lived experience, when we go into the world and we experience it, we see those things that are joyful. We want to have joy. We look for it. And that's so important. And for me, for someone who works with a lot of people who are in pain, it's really easy to not see things as being joyful. And that's really, really understandable. And sometimes it's hard for me in the classroom to say to someone, I get that, but you need to find the joy. And I've lost the words to be able to say it nicely now. They've gone. But I can't express how important it is to look for the positives, look for the things that you can do, look for the things that you want to do. If you like you say, if you love watching comedians but you can't get out to one that night, book one for in a couple of weeks' time. If you can't make it up into London, go to the local pub where they've got a comedian on.
yeah,
It's what we said earlier. It's like, okay, well, this is what would bring me joy. I can recognize that. And first point is recognizing that, and then find the things in your life that enable you to do it. Yeah,
yeah.
nicely said. And so just before we get to the last question, how has your personal love of the arts influenced your professional outlook?
Influence my professional outlook. I
I
guess
wonder if you already said it, but
it's
yeah.
kind of about it's the creativity and the connection. And you know what? It's also inclusion. And I haven't like that word, I don't want to use a buzzword necessarily, but the arts in general and being involved in theatre or singing or music and dance and what have you. The majority of places that I've been and time that I've spent in spaces that create and offer those types of experiences are very inclusive. There is no, you can't do this because you are in some way impaired by your mobility, or you can't do this because maybe you haven't got a singing voice, or you can't do this because you're too young or too old. That doesn't exist in the majority of art spaces because it's for everybody. Theatre is for everybody, music is for everybody, dance is for everybody, no matter what ability you have or what age you are. And that inclusion is something that's so important to me. And I'm not entirely sure where or why that's happened, in general, but certainly, my family feel the same. We're all quite, we all find it very important that everybody is included and no one is, not allowed for whatever harebrained reason somebody else can come up with. So the arts comes with me into my work because it's also about saying, well, not necessarily that you can't have a target audience or for something like that, but equally, how can you ensure that you're not excluding anybody? How can you make your event accessible? Can you have a hearing loop? Is it step free? Like what are the things that we can do to make it more open to anybody who might want to come and enjoy it, because that's where the community is.
Yeah, that's so nice that the arts has that. And I want to say that sport and exercise has it too. And if you go and join a sports club, you will generally find that. You know, I think any community group you can go into, you can feel apprehensive, you can think it's cliquey, blah, 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 blah. Honestly, just ride that bit out and
Yeah.
you will generally find it is a welcoming, how can we help you kind of place. I want to say that most of the fitness industry is like that. There are probably there are loads of trainers like me who just want to help people. Just sometimes I wonder if media just gives it a bit of a bad rep and makes it a bit alien for people to come into. I don't know, but let's not go into that
I
today.
mean, certainly does, and that's in all cases of any industry, that you have to be a certain size, weight, look, whatever that is, to be a pop star or a sports star or what have you. And that's just not real life. That's how they make their money.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Okay, so that was almost the last question. If there's one takeaway you'd love our listeners to hold on to, what would that be?
I guess it's the bit about don't wait till you feel better to do something, because doing that something could help you feel better. So don't let it hold you back. Potentially you will find that your levels of pain or your general well-being or whatever it happens to be will be reduced because you've taken that action. You'll feel not only proud of yourself for taking the action, and that's like self-validation, self-confidence, but also get that from people around you. So yeah, don't wait to feel better.
Yeah. Lovely. Cheers, Belle. I'm really conscious of the time. Thank you so much.
It was great. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. And I will just say to you and to everyone, the next live session is Thursday, the 16th of October, same time at 1:00. And this time I will have a guest speaker called Claire Stott, who is a nutritionist. It's a slightly different angle, but all coming back to probably the same things that we've been talking about. Don't let stuff hold you back. So thank you very much, Belle. Let me end the recording and say goodbye to everyone on the live. Whoever was listening along, appreciate you.